I'm Hobbs, and you're watching the Underground Bunker. Oh God. I'm Hobbs, and you're watching the Underground Bunker on Bloodrock Media.
Hello everyone in internet land, welcome to another shining example of the Underground Bunker. I am your host, Hobbs, and you all know what this is. It's a weekly web series where I showcase unsigned and underground bands that you really need to be paying attention to because I said so. Alright, so I cover everything from pop rock to death metal because, like you, I like everything from Henry Rollins to Fiona Apple, and ain't got a damn thing wrong with that. So, yeah, I've got my wine, I've got some candy, let's do a fucking show! First, a correction. Your humble host has made a mistake. The first of many, I'm sure. Last week, I made mention of a band called Shift out of Chicago. They're a kick-ass punk band. Well, as it turns out, the day that episode went online, I found out that Shift was no more. They are now called, one of their members left, they are now called Fukushima Laser Shark. They now have two guitar players, and as I understand it, they are working on some material, and they're going to start gigging soon.
Segway!
If you've ever watched a Sons of Anarchy episode, you're going to think these guys would have been on the soundtrack, but they have not yet. And Sons of Anarchy isn't even on TV anymore. What the fuck are you thinking? Anyway, these guys are from Wausau, Wisconsin. They are two really kick-ass guys who have no sense of humor whatsoever. I'm being sarcastic. They are some really kick-ass guys. These guys are called 20 Watt Tombstone.
Will you asleep at the wheel? Will you falling too fast?
And they've been around for a few years. I think it's like 2011 when they formed. They formed under the name the Goddams. Well, as you might surmise, that's an awfully hard thing to put on a show poster, not to mention in a magazine, so they changed it. They even had a thing on Facebook where they were asking people what they should change their name to. How they came to 20 Watt Tombstone is beyond me. I think I suggested something like Buster Hyman and the Penetrators, and they didn't go with it, so I don't know. As I said, they sort of have this sort of biker rock thing going on about them, like definitely out of like a Sons of Anarchy episode, like just that kind of sound. The slide guitar that Tom plays is just very, you know, that kind of sound. I really don't know how else to describe it because that is a very singular sound. I mean, when you hear that, you automatically, I mean, I don't know about you, but I automatically, you know, kind of picture bikers on a very long road into the mountains during, you know, through the desert on the way to the mountains. That's just, you know, that sort of outlaw sound. And that's 20 Watt Tombstone. These guys have always reminded me of sort of a tramp singer named C6 Steve. And it's not just because of the sound. The guitar player, Tom, has a guitar. Well, he's got a couple of them, but most notably, he's got a guitar made out of a car muffler. And that's where the C6 Steve thing came from, as far as I'm concerned, because C6 Steve has a few guitars like that, where he's got a guitar actually made out of a pair of hubcaps from a Morris Minor. And I thought that was kind of cool. So just that, I mean, the sound is actually kind of cool once you see it. You know, he breaks it out for one or two songs every set, and it's weird, but it's really cool. And he has his action really high, so the slide works. Drummer's really good, really cool guy. They're both really funny people. The Wisconsin scene is a close enough scene as it is within any genre, and these guys happen to get around in it. Not just because the singer used to be a major promoter here, but because they're good at what they do. And it's because of that within the first year of their forming, they were nominated for and actually won the Best New Artist Award in the Wisconsin Area Music Industry Awards, the Whammies. And there's a lot of bands nominated for that thing every year. And to win the award is saying something. It's not, you know, quite as political as the Grammys, and it's not the shit show as every other thing. So we here tend to sort of hail the Whammies, even though there are some who naysay it. These guys won an award within the first year of their forming, and that's saying a goddamn something, especially in a state that is dominated by rock and metal and cover bands. Two-man bands are rare enough. A two-man band that sounds like a damn biker bar is even rarer, and these guys are fucking good at it. So congratulations on the award, even though it's several years later. I'm congratulating them. Fuck it. They have one full-length album out. It's called Wisco Disco, and then they have a split with Left Lane Cruiser that's out now. You can pick it up, and it's vinyl. Both their stuff are on vinyl, which I think is really cool. More bands are doing it. More bands should do it. You know, let's go back to the classics and stuff. Anyway, you can check out their music. You can check out their tour dates, which they just left for a tour. Definitely check them out on tour. So check out their tour dates, check out their music at thegoddams.com. What else can I say but sex, death, and rock and roll? I mean, that is the Parthenon. Parthenon? Parthenon. Parthenon? That is those are the mainstays at which rock and roll music was built on back in the whenever the hell it was created. What the modern definition? Sex, death, and rock and roll, and these guys have it. They are a Detroit-based band called Crud. What more can you say about a five-piece band from Detroit that hails itself as supercharged fetish rock? Well, I can tell you something. The singer for this band is none other than Vinny Dabrowski from Sponge, a band who I fucking love. And I actually didn't know that until I started researching. I liked the band before I knew, and now I love it even more because Vinny fucking rocks. Just very, very cool. I just looked him up about a year and a half ago. Been loving him ever since because I remembered that song from one time I heard it on the radio back in 2006. So yeah, checking them out, got hooked, and as it turns out, they're playing shows still. Now the cool thing about their shows is they're singular, and when I say singular, I mean there's not many rock bands that are doing it the old school way anymore. They have a very theatrical stage show, and they do it every time. The other singer, her name's Danielle. She's very beautiful, and she does her thing really well. Because not only can she sing, she's fucking gorgeous. And they sort of, that's their tagline is sex, death, rock and roll. And that's their thing. Nobody's really doing that anymore. And I fucking love that. Vinny always had style. He's got this sort of Iggy Pop thing about him, which I fucking love. And especially since Iggy Pop happens to also be from Detroit. Iggy Pop fucking rocks, and anybody who has that kind of whiff about them is someone that I respect heavily, because to be able to pull it off without blatantly so is kind of cool. They came out with an album in 2007. Then it was released through a label with Full Effects Records. The album's called Devil at the Wheel. And to my knowledge, they haven't really done anything other than that. Not that they'd have to, because they bring people into every one of their shows, which is fucking cool. I mean, they don't play a whole lot, but the shows they play, they bring people in consistently, and that's fucking awesome. So they're playing with Davey Suicide on December 9th in Westland, Michigan at the Token Lounge, and your old buddy Hobbs will be there. Check them out on crud313.com. You can also check out their music on Amazon, Facebook, anywhere you can get music, you can find it. It's worth getting. I highly recommend it. Crud. Segway! I find it difficult to classify these guys. In fact, I find it difficult to introduce them at all, other than the fact that I found them just very recently and thought they were kick-ass and well worth talking about. From Montreal, Quebec, Canada, these guys are called Von Dogma I. 9-string basses. 9 strings. Think about that. You need some serious wizardry skills to play a thing like that and do it well. This guy's a fucking master at it. I mean, he's good. Really good. And he's not a dick about it. Like, it's gent, right? So he's got the, you know, the lower 3 strings, but he's also got some serious Victor Wooten skills going on, like, you know, just, oh my God, it was insane to listen to and even more fun to watch. I actually just wrote a review on him on the community EP for the website, and it'll be up pretty soon. But it was because of the review that I wrote that I had to find out more about him, and I had to put him on the show because the music really wowed me. Anyway, 9-string bass, doesn't suck at it. The guitar player backs him up really good. You can clearly tell, though, that this band was definitely set up around Chaos, the bass player singer. And that's cool. I fear, though, that maybe they let that get carried away. But as you can see, they don't suffer from what I call deaf heaven syndrome. You know, you could watch these guys and not get bored, no matter how noodly and progressive it gets. You could watch these guys and not get bored because this guy's fucking nuts. So I happen to think that they'd be fun to watch. It's too bad they're in Canada. Hurry the fuck up, guys. Get down here. Not that far away from you, I think. Where's Montreal? Yeah, not that far away from you. Hurry the fuck up. Travel south. One thing I really like about these guys is that their songs are genty without being abrasive. And by that I mean you can clearly pick out the Meshuggah vibe, but as you can hear, this guy doesn't have a Meshuggah vibe in his voice at all, and I fucking love that. It almost reminded me, and I put this in the review, it almost reminded me of My Dying Bride, old My Dying Bride, because his voice is almost ghost-like. You know, it's ethereal and trailing and dreamy, and I really, really dug that. You know, it's rare that I will find a band, you know, that I'm working on or something like that and immediately put them on the show. These guys totally qualify. And seriously, I really can't underscore it enough. They're good. Really good. This is just one song. They have a 4-song EP called Communion. It is out on October 27th, and I highly recommend that you pick it up as soon as it comes out. Remember a couple weeks ago when I told you guys that we were going to take a drastic left turn? Well, now we're assuming that we've gotten back on the right path, or at least on the path that we were before, and now I'm going to take you guys in another drastic fucking left turn because I like doing that kind of thing. I'm unpredictable. Woo! We're going to talk about a stunningly beautifully voiced singer-songwriter from Moscow, Russia, by way of Los Angeles, California. She is Marina V. Now, I know I don't talk about pop very often, and that's because Bloodrock is mainly a rock and metal thing, but I am able to talk about these guys because when there's talent, I have to talk about it, and Marina V is no exception. She was born in Moscow, lives in LA. She was raised by a nuclear physicist and a psychologist. So that had to be an interesting home life. She's not only played with Grammy-winning artists, she's won her own awards too. One of the awards actually she got was presented to her by Sir Bob Geldof. And if you don't know who he is, look him up. He's a very, very big musician in the UK and Ireland. And not to mention he's been on Top Gear, which is where I heard of him. Huge Top Gear fan. She has this sound that sort of spans from rock to electronic. And I know more and more singer-songwriters are doing that, you know, like Hannah Pessel and other people like that. But she does it rather well. Every song that she has its own quality that makes it interesting. So in one song, it's mostly acoustic with her playing the guitar. And another one's more of a bit of rock, which is backed up by this kind of weird Nickelback-looking guitar player, which kind of threw me off a little bit watching the video, but the album rocks, and I've heard it. It's called Born to the Stars, and if you have a mind to open music, which I know there's a lot of you out there that listen to Fiona Apple, so take off your hats and listen to something new, guys. MarinaV.com. Now that we're back on track, the last band I'm going to talk about tonight is a mainstay where I'm from in Milwaukee. They are a mainstay, and when I say mainstay, I mean the very literal sense of the word. These guys have been around since I've been around, and that's saying something. They have one of the best shows I've ever seen, and they bring that show to every show they ever play. This is New Society of Anarchists.
Oh yes, it's who I am. It'll never fucking change just to be one of them.
They've had the same three members for 20 years. Zach, Arlo, and Augie. Amazing musicians. And there's not a single show I've ever seen them play that wasn't just sweaty, angry punk. And it was fucking awesome. Every single time. Even when I shot pictures of them just recently, about 5 or 6 months ago here in Milwaukee, and it was at a shitty ass fucking bar. The room was crap, the lights were crap, but everyone was fucking moshing, and it was awesome. These guys have toured the US on their own a few times, but they've also toured with bands like DRI and Jungle Rye. How many bands do you know that have put out 10 albums? 10 albums. That's one every 2 years. And as an underground band, putting out that many albums is kind of unheard of. Much respect, guys. You know, and I was talking about awards earlier. These guys haven't won any awards, not in the 20 years that they've been around. But you know who else didn't win any awards? The Sex Pistols. And they fucking rocked ass. You can find their stuff on Facebook. You can find anywhere you can find music. They're there. Thankfully, they're there, and that's great. I highly recommend that you check out New Society of Anarchists because they will blow your fucking mind away. And I mean that. Check them out. That's all the time we've got for on this week's episode of The Underground Bunker. Be sure to like and subscribe. You know how this works. Check out every single other video that Bloodrock has to offer, including my other show, The Fallout Shelter, where I interview touring bands. The next one, by the way, coming up is where I, your old buddy Hobbs, gets to interview Andrew WK himself. Check it out. So we also have the Spotify playlist, which we update weekly to cover every band that's on this show. So by the time you see this, these bands will be on it. Awesome. Check out the Twitter for Bloodrock Media. Check out both Facebook pages for Bloodrock Media and The Underground Bunker. And not to mention, if you have just a little bit of time, check out my band, The Toxic Dream. It's a story-based metal thing, and I think you like it. I'm going to leave you with this remark. Hemingway was a big inspiration to me, and one of the things that I learned from reading his books was that the best memories come from suffering. And there is nobody in this world that suffers quite like an underground musician. We work our asses off and get very little reward out of it, so the least you can do is support the fuck out of them. I'm Hobbs. I'm out.